Should I look at you or look at the camera?
Look at the camera. Frank SEPE with NPC News Online here at the 2018 NPC Nationals. And who am I with? Mr.Pro.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
So everybody's looking good on stage today, and it has to do with what?
Pro-Tan. And the way we do it, the girls are amazing. We're lucky. Good team here. Very happy as in Pro-Tan as a sponsor. This is our 14th year for the Nationals, so very excited about that and thankful.
How long have you been involved in NPC and IFBB?
Well, I started in 1984, so since '84, so 34 years I've been involved with the NPC and, of course, the IFBB Pro League now over the past maybe 9 or 10 years this came out. But yeah, 34 years. I'll be 54 on Monday, so the most of my adult life. Let's just be for real.
So you've seen it all. What do you think the biggest change has been in obviously tanning and prep, for stage presentation?
I think that there's a lot of athletes, a lot of new athletes that have come in, and I think that the athletes are excellent conditioning, excellent training. I think we need to help with the education, though, because the tanning has become a process and the time management. So I think the industry is growing great, and we as a company are going to try and educate a little bit more so athletes can really be perfect on stage. And I think that's the critical part. Time is, the modern athlete doesn't necessarily put as much time in on the tanning portion for the preparation as they would do for the bodybuilding parts. So I think if they can learn a little bit more time management on the tanning, everybody's going to have a great career ahead of them with the tans.
It drives me crazy. After 16 weeks, you see a competitor, they diet hard, they train, they carb deplete, they go on stage, and their tan is a mess, or they're just not tan enough. Yeah. And if they were, they would have won. But they, a lot of people don't, especially newbies for the NPC, first timers, because it's the first time they did it. Like some people still think natural sun, they can get tan enough.
Well. Yeah, and that's just not possible. The lights are too bright, depending on the auditorium. It's, you have to think of the movies. They have makeup on because it makes them look more colorful, more natural. And in these bright lights, or not so, but you have to have that base tan to make sure it accentuates your definition. But you're right, you hit it. There's a lot of new competitors. There's a lot of first-time competitors, and so it's our job to educate. And with you, of course, the NPC Online, we're going to continue trying to do education because there's just too many new people. And with social media now, it's our job, let's say, to make sure athletes get the best opportunity to be as successful as they can on stage.
And you give the opportunity to either get a tan at the show or they could DIY, right, themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for recognizing. Yeah, of course, when you're at the show and then you have the sponsor companies there, support the sponsor companies. I mean, they're going to be backstage. You're going to make sure not only do they tan you well, but also the tips on the tips on fixing you if mistakes happen. That's really important if you're doing it at the show. If you do it at home, it's also very valid because you do it in your convenience of your home. You can look at yourself. You can make yourself darker. You can just take your time a little bit in the comfort of your home. So we are on the fence of both. We love the DIY people. We've had a great success on training people for doing that. It's a little bit more affordable, to be honest with you, so a cost savings. So, it's a balance. We recommend both, but the most important part is make sure you take your time to be tan and look at yourself. Go under a bright light, see what you look like, and make sure that you're covered completely. I mean, it's a process just like building your biceps or shaping your glutes. It's not a 1-minute show.
Yeah, and we will have instructional videos on tanning on NPC News Online throughout the year. And you have a ton of athletes, right, in the IFBB and NPC who use Pro-Tan. Name some of them.
Well, we have, from Janet Lang now, of course, we have Laura Lee Chapados, Casey Samps, of course, is, our girls. Popular girls. And there's a lot of them, there's so many girls that have been around, and then from the guys, of course, Dexter, and then there's Sergio's, and, so many of the athletes have become our, I don't want to say sponsored athletes, because not all of them are sponsored. We have a lot of athletes that just trust us, and we look after them. So if you call that sponsored, I call it loyalty. Yeah, and we'll do that for them. So we have a dozen sponsored IFBB Pro League athletes, but we have about 70 athletes that are very loyal to us around the world, which is really great, or maybe even more.
It says a lot. Even his son uses Pro-Tan.
Yeah, he did. He does. Listen, if I convinced him to do it, and it was great. He did his one show, which really, you said something very interesting. So you're right. My son, who's 28, co-founder of our Steelfoot Nutritional Company, wanted to do a show. And I, for the first time as a parent, got excited. I felt like he was either on the basketball court or it was a sport. And I'm like, I'm there, and I'm here for the first time in the stands cheering for him. I mean, I don't think he placed in the top 10. There's 14 athletes. He might have been 14, but I loved it. Yeah. I loved tanning him by hand, and I felt for the first time why it's so important for the parents to be involved in this kids, because as the kids grow up, you miss out on those things. Your son plays football. Yeah. It's part of the passion, both mothers and us. So I loved it, and that's what really kind of reinvigorated me. Like a lot of new people, get them educated, get them trained, because they might only do also one show. Some people do one show and then they don't continue. So we want to make sure that one show is the best experience for the athlete you know, in the NPC, of course, and they come out a winner. Winning means getting on stage, going from start to finish. First place is great, but when you're on stage and you do it, you're a winner. That's how I look at it, because I know so many thousands of people I've met that talk but never get on stage. Right. So
everyone's like, I could beat that person, but they never go on stage to actually do it.
Yeah, well, this is true. Well, we know that. But, you know, it's a dream and it's a vision. But I see just firsthand with my son, and I never really saw that. We've tanned actually hundreds of thousands of athletes for 34 years. Yeah. And I never had that experience of being a parent and watching the diet process, watching what happened 3 weeks out, watching what happened 2 weeks, and then the last week. So the DIY is that easy, though. And I say that because when you're so depleted and ready for a show that last week, the last thing you want to do is do your own tanning, but it's so easy that it's actually more relaxing and less stress to do it yourself sometimes, depending on the show. Of course, in Nashville, so many athletes, but it can be stress-free, and that was what I learned, that he was basically, you know, non-functioning, you know. Third week of work, he was okay. Second week's like, okay, last week, don't even show up. Let's just be for real, you know. But it's great, but yeah, great. DIY is good, spray tan's good. I'm old school, I still believe hand's the best. I mean.
Well, we'll have all those videos, so you know exactly what we're talking about from Pro-Tan on NPC News Online. For all the products, ProTanUSA.com and Protan.com, right?
ProTanUSA.com, yes, thank you.
All right.
And follow us on Instagram, Protan_official. And we thank you for all your support, NPC. And Frank, thank you so much for that.
Thank you, we appreciate it. Frank SEPE, Mr. Pro-Tan for NPC News Online.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.